Hey everybody, this is me. I'm Lance Mikes for the Undead Viking. I am not filming from my torn up basement right now. I am filming in this guy's basement right now. This is Alan Bahr, which you've seen in the video title. This is more just for fun. Just a little background quick. So Alan and I shared, like, we talked a little bit, you know, not on the phone, but talked like electronically for a little while before you moved to Fargo.
Yeah. You had backed some of our Kickstarters when I lived in Utah. Yeah.
So, and like we just had some back and forth a little bit, like Tiny D6, and I think all of them actually, pretty much.
And I grew up in Bismarck, which is kind of why we've been talking about North Dakota.
There you go. So he now lives in West Fargo, North Dakota. I grew up in Fargo, as you know. I live in Moorhead, Minnesota, but we live 10 minutes away from each other. But anyway, the reason why is Alan is a very prolific designer and author and publisher of RPGs. Yes.
Yeah.
How many have you either published yourself or authored for somebody else? Like, I know you're authoring games for Columbia right now. Columbia Games, right?
Osprey.
Yeah,
Osprey. I have over 200 credits of some sort, and more than that are uncredited.
All right. Uncredited, like secret,
or consulting, or things change and the name gets removed from the book, stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Like, things happen.
Anything of the Alan Smithy variety, like you just wanted your name removed?
Yes, but I will not comment on those because I had my name removed for a reason.
All right, very good. So, anyway, the reason why I reached out to Alan about this, and if you follow me on Facebook, you might have seen this, is that was my cool way of kind of showing off that I know you.
Oh boy.
Yeah, exactly. Do I keep kicking your?
No, I keep kicking you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah.
So this whole OGL nonsense, I don't really understand it. My first passion for gaming is role-playing games. I've said that repeatedly over and over again. I publish board games, though, which is another passion of mine, but my first passion in tabletop was RPGs. But Alan is, I think your passion is RPGs and has been for a long time.
Yeah.
And then you turned it into a living, which is pretty cool as well. So if anyone was going to know more about the OGL stuff, it was going to be this guy, and he lives like 10 minutes from my house.
Sure. Now, usual disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer.
Neither of us are lawyers, and this is just more for us to have a conversation, kind of I can like express the way I feel, and then if I'm wrong, you can say, well, that doesn't work or whatever. Now, I got introduced to RPGs. I was thinking about this when I was driving over here today, that it was, and I've told the story before, but my older brother came home when I was playing on my Atari 2600, and he started talking about a game, and I thought he was talking about an Atari game, and he was talking about, fighting dragons and all this stuff, and I thought that's like a super cool game. And no, he says, no, it's Dungeons and Dragons. I went to this guy's house and we sat down at a table, and that had to be like, I'm guessing 1979. Guessing. Yeah. So, and I remember I got, and then like I was either in 3rd or 4th grade, and that was. So when did you start the whole RPG?
It would have been probably 12, 13. It would have been right around the 3.0 era, starting 2000, 2001.
All right, yeah, okay. So there's an age.
I was around for the switch to 3.5.
All right, very good. I remember pre-ordering my 3.5 books. Yeah,
so
that was cool.
The 3.5 books were the first books I ever bought.
Yes.
With my own money. I rode my bike down to Walden Books, which is a thing nobody probably
I remember
the name.
Yeah. No, I see. In town here, it was Omni Hobby, which was a company, which is a store that now is defunct. Whatever. They held on for way too longer than I thought they ever could have. But yeah, I remember I pre-ordered mine.
Right there. That's the player's handbook. It even has the receipt in it still.
Oh, from Walden?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was cleaning some stuff and I found the receipt, so I stuck it in there.
All right. So long story short is, like, we're not just like, I mean, and not that this isn't to disparage people getting into the hobby at all. I mean, like, if you jumped in with 5.0 because D&D is super popular now, that's great. I mean,
play RPGs. Who cares?
Yeah, who cares? Exactly. But so Wizards of the Coast, and I don't understand it all. They're gonna try to take back the Open Gaming License, which was revolutionary for 3.0 back in the day.
So it might help if we establish some baseline terms first, so we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a couple different things that are happening right now. So first of all, a lot of this is sort of unsubstantiated. Like, we're going off leaks and rumors.
Yes.
Which, for everybody has a different opinion about the authenticity or veracity of those things, so keep that in mind. I'm not going to make a comment one way or another. We're going to, for the sake of this conversation, we'll assume the leaks are mostly true.
Yeah, mostly true.
Let's operate like that. So there are two pieces to this puzzle that people are conflating sometimes. One is the OGL 1.0, and the other is the SRD. So SRD stands for System Reference Document, and OGL stands for Open Gaming License. And the System Reference Document is just what it sounds like. It is a documentation of a game's whatever you want it to be. In this case, it's a documentation of the D20 rules that are released under the OGL. But you can have an SRD for something that's not for public consumption. I have an SRD for some of my games, and I use it when I work with licensors or something. I don't give it to the public because it's not for public consumption.
Okay, yeah.
It's like documentation for software or whatever.
Okay, very good.
All right, an OGL is a license, which is a form of a contract that allows you access to somebody else's property. So the Open Gaming License is a license that you can enter into with the license holder to use their material with it for the rights that are within the license. In this case, for free, in perpetuity.
And that was the whole idea with 3.0 was that this idea that, like, oh, you have something you want to create for D&D, go ahead and create it. And that's why there was this just blossom of brand new publishers when 3.0 came out. I mean, and not many of them still exist.
A lot of the big ones do, though. Mongoose, Green Ronin. A lot of these companies cut their teeth on the 3.0 D20 boom.
Yeah, and Necromancer, which turned into Frog God.
Yep. There's quite a few that are still around from that. And there's been a lot of other effects. Other games have been released under the OGL 1.0, which is the 2001 era Open Gaming License. You have the Year Zero engine from Free League, Open D6, the Western Games D6 system is OGL. Traveler was released under the OGL as the Cepheus system. The classic D100 system Legend was released under the OGL, which is very similar to Chaosium's BRP. This was done by Mongoose.
Sure.
So it's not just D20 that utilizes the OGL.
Yeah, but the one that WOTC has control over is...
That's the point of confusion.
Okay.
So, the OGL, the text of the OGL is WOTC's copyright. So what's happening is WOTC, according to these leaks, WOTC is claiming they can deauthorize the OGL 1.0, which means it's no longer a legally valid document for use. And this hinges on a couple of key factors. One, it hinges on a provision that states you can use any authorized version of the OGL. Now, the OGL doesn't give a particular method for deauthorization in it. There's no kill switch per se.
Okay.
But it does clearly state that if they did intend that it could theoretically be deauthorized.
Okay.
Okay. The other clause is that Section 9 of the OGL explicitly states Wizards of the Coast or their authorized agents can manage the OGL. So when you look at something like Open D6, that clause is in there.
All right.
Because the text is their copyright, you can't alter it.
Okay.
So all these OGLs have a clause that say Wizards can theoretically deauthorize this legally binding document.
Okay, so here's my crazy idea here.
Yep.
Why, if you were another publisher, why would you use that OGL for something? Why would you use that if it had that kind of that clause in there?
I think there's a lot of reasons. Part of it is
laziness.
Yeah, part of it is maybe that. Part of it is legal work is expensive.
Yeah.
Part of it is shorthand for communication. It's a thing people in the gaming industry and developers understand.
Yeah.
Right? So when you say we have OGL this product, there is an innate knowledge to that. Part of it is access. Products that are OGL'd can be combined, but you cannot combine any other license with the OGL. So if you did something under like Creative Commons, you could not combine it with an OGL product because the OGL explicitly prohibits other licenses from being applied to it.
Okay.
So there's a few reasons. Part of it is just internet wisdom. People have said the OGL is safe. They can't revoke it for 20 years. And now that we're finding out they think they can, again, theoretically, this internet wisdom, people have sort of built themselves on, is kind of the foundation shaking, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I guess it's you have trust in it, and you and then all of a sudden, and a lot of this is coming from this whole, like, idea that, you know, the bean counters, so to speak, like we could be making so much more money off of D&D.
Right.
You know, so why aren't we doing more to make more money off of D&D? Which, now, I'm going to say this, I mean, it's a company, it's what they create, they should be able to do whatever the heck they want.
Well, and I don't think, I mean, I try to make money making my games, and to that end, I control the copyright. Like, that's the point. I can't get somebody to give me money if I give it away for free.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and in my case, it's different. I'm the sole person in my business. I have to make a living. I'm not Hasbro.
You don't report to shareholders or what have you.
You know, but I don't think it's shocking that Hasbro intends to monetize their IP.
No, it isn't at all. But I think was most people were fine with. It was like, oh, you're going to make some sort of online version of D&D, and you're going to sell microtransactions, so your character can have a different hat.
Yes.
They're like, fine, I don't care. I'm not going to play it online. I'm not going to use your system. I don't care. If you can get people to pay you 99 cents for different costumes for their avatar, go for it. I think the problem is that now this whole sky is falling effect that everybody's talking about is the fact that, you know, that stuff that you created, you can't have that anymore. Or we want a piece.
So, based on the leaks we've seen, it appears that, and this is my layman's reading of this.
Yeah, not lawyers.
Not lawyers. That Wizards believes that the fact that their document says it can be deauthorized means they can deauthorize it. And in contract language, there's a difference between perpetuity and irrevocable. Perpetuity means it just lasts forever without terms of renewal. Irrevocable means it can't ever be removed or rescinded.
Okay.
And a contract that is not deemed irrevocable is assumed to be revocable. That's sort of a foundational legal theory.
Okay.
All right. So those two things combined mean that WOTC believes they can revoke the OGL 1.0 and say you have to use the 1.1 going forward.
So who's going to finally, if this comes true,
Yeah.
if this comes true and they come out and they say, well, we're going to revoke it and we're going to take it back, and here's the new one, which is 1.1, which, you know, we can talk about that in a little bit. Like, somebody's going to have to step up and, you know, test it, right? And, like, say you can't do that or whatever, and there's going to have to be some sort of lawyers and court cases and what have you. This
is the sort of thing where it will be decided, if push comes to shove, the courts are going to decide how this plays out.
Yeah.
Right? And I think to a degree that is maybe in WOTC's favor. They have more money than any of us to hire lawyers and bury people in red tape.
That's true. And just keep things, I mean, you'd like to think that, like, the truth will out, you know, that age-old saying. But does anybody know what the 1.1 is supposedly going to say?
So the leaks that we've seen were purportedly from a version of the 1.1. So WOTC, and this is all internet sort of rumor, hearsay. I have had some inside conversations, so I know some of this is accurate. I won't say which bits.
Okay.
The opinion or fact running around there is that WOTC has provided previous big OGL publishers with licenses in advance to get them on board.
That, like, and behind the scenes, they've already approached the people.
We approached so-and-so and said, hey, this is what we're rolling out. We'd like you to work with us and agree to this. And that's where these leaks have come from. And then theoretically, people have actually agreed to it, signed it, moved forward, but nobody said anything, right? Nobody said they've agreed to it. I mean, it's not enforced, it hasn't been publicized. So that's kind of the nebulous thing, is we're all talking about something that only a handful of people have seen, and most of us don't know what the contents are. So, I mean, do you have a guess? Do you have a best guess from what you've heard or what have you? Or you don't want to share? Because I don't want to share. Oh, yeah, that's fair. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. That's fair. So, I have my opinions and my stances on the topic, but... well, do you want to share an opinion or stance? I think that there's a lot of things going on. I think that Hasbro's a big company, and the way big companies work is lawyers draft multiple versions of various things for review. Do I believe that this is a version that might have been drafted at some point? Sure. I mean, a lawyer wouldn't be doing their job if they didn't explore all the possible options, right? Okay. Am I sold that this is the document that's floating out there? No, but I haven't seen it. I'm not going to be, until I see it, I will never be sold, right? Because a contract is only binding when you sign it. So whatever they write on paper does not matter until I am presented with the paper to sign, in a digital sense, right?
So, the people that did they sign with the OGL when they did the 3.0? I mean, was that
the 1.0?
The 1.0, yeah.
The 1.0 OGL, by using it, you've indicated your acceptance. That's it's kind of like a EULA.
Okay, so yeah,
So by using the license, you've indicated, and that's very common for a lot of
You didn't read the text, you clicked the box, and you said continue.
That's very common for a lot of these open licenses, is you indicate that you agree to this by using our thing.
Okay.
Rather than have to sign an agreement with everybody under the sun. And that's pretty common.
Yeah, okay, so, I mean, let's just, sky is falling, worst case scenario, they're going to send cops to your door to collect your old books because you can't read them anymore.
Yeah. So, worst case scenario, if we assume the leaks we have seen are correct and everything is worst to come to worst, anything that uses the 1.0 OGL would no longer be allowed to be distributed.
But nobody's coming after your old books.
They cannot come take your old books. You bought them. They're your property.
Yeah. What about all those?
They can't stop you from playing them either.
What about those old computer games that were based on the OGL and stuff like that? I mean,
well, all the AD&D games were prior to the OGL, like the Baldur's Gates and stuff.
Yeah.
There was no OGL for AD&D.
But isn't there that one Star Wars Jedi game
the Star Wars game was never OGL because it's not their trademarks and IP.
Oh, okay.
So I imagine with KOTOR they had a custom agreement with LucasArts.
Yeah, okay. I mean,
yeah, anybody who's claiming that that's going to get Disney involved I haven't seen their agreement, but my assumption would be no.
I mean, just because it wouldn't be worth either of them to.
Well, and the Star Wars stuff was never put into the OGL, like an adjustment to the OGL, and they don't even distribute OGL books anymore. Like, this is literally, sort of irrelevant in a large sense to them.
I mean, so I don't, and again, this is me speaking just because, and I don't have a grasp of it. No, I feel bad for people that publish things. I mean, but on one side, it's like, we don't know, we don't know for sure what 1.1 is. I mean, it sounds like, it isn't like they're going to say you can't publish stuff anymore. It's just probably they're going to say, we want a piece of the pie kind of thing.
If the terms that have been leaked are correct, they want a big piece of the pie. 20% of all 5e Kickstarters.
20% of all 5?
20% on top of Kickstarter's cut.
Wow, that's a lot.
It's functionally untenable from a financial perspective. That's 30% off the top.
Yeah. I mean, 9% Kickstarter. Yeah, I mean,
I'm rounding up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, it's that. That
but
is a
also,
giant...
if you make more than $750K in a year off OGL stuff, you have to pay them a royalty.
Matt Mercer, what is he gonna do? No.
And then probably sign a custom agreement.
Yeah, probably sign a custom agreement, and then you're making a lot of money.
If you make more than $50K a year off 5e related or OGL related products, you have to report your revenue. You don't have to pay them, but you have to report it. Now, the part that's scary about the leaks we've seen is that they can modify the OGL with no notice. So once they start getting reported data, they could theoretically lower that bar for royalties until they hit the sweet spot for them.
Find the spot where they
right.
Like,
now we see all the data.
There's a lot of people making $250K. So why don't we just go ahead and sliding scale and move it down and
right.
So.
And they would also get the right to irrevocably use your work without crediting you. Again, according to the leaks we've seen.
So, I mean, but here, and this is again very negative of me.
I feel like I keep saying according to the leaks we've seen, but I really want to be clear that this is a lot of speculation.
Yeah, this is supposition, and this is. I guess my weird gut feeling is that the people that are already and still making stuff for OGL things, they're just going to continue making it. I mean, they're just because what else are they gonna do? I mean, I've seen all these people with these pie in the sky mentalities. Like, what we need to do is all of these indie people need to get together. We need to all agree on a brand new set of rules and a brand new. It's like,
do not envy the project manager who's gonna herd a bunch of indie game designers into one game.
Yeah, and that's a wonderful idea. It's a wonderful idea, but it's just not going to happen. The reason why that this can actually work is that, I mean, D&D, the whole 6 stats, D20, this is your target number. It's so ubiquitous to the tabletop hobby.
Well, it's interesting because when the OGL was developed, Ryan Dancy, who was sort of the architect of it at Wizards of the Coast, first of all, he said it was intended never to be revoked. Now, intent doesn't matter in a contract.
No.
But that's what he said. And then the other thing, and this is me recalling off my head, so I might get it wrong, but I believe he also said the goal was partially to make D&D the sole role-playing game system in a sense. Like, we'll let everybody make stuff for it so we control the market.
And I've had this argument with people before, and people will say that, like, I was like, D&D is the role-playing game. And they're like, no, there isn't. There's, like, Call of Cthulhu, and there's Traveler.
But what do you see on Big Bang Theory? What do you see on Community?
Yeah, I mean,
right? People are playing D&D.
I mean, I don't know. I remember, I can't remember the last time I saw the market share, but the market share is, it's a vast ownership.
It's over 70%.
Yeah, it's what people play. It's what, when people think about a role-playing game, if they know about role-playing games, they think
when you explain it to somebody who doesn't know role-playing games, what do you say?
Well, yeah, it's like, okay, so you've heard of Dungeons and Dragons, right? I mean, that's what you say. You know, and because I mean,
when I explain my job to all my in-laws and my family, this is what I do.
I know, and yeah, same deal. I mean, like my wife always says, whenever like she has any meet and greet at a job thing, and everybody has to go around and say what they do, and she talks to me, and they, what does your husband do? And she's like, just don't ask. It's like it's tough to explain because if you say makes board games, like Monopoly? No, not like Monopoly at all. It's like, but no. Anyway, so you say Dungeons and Dragons, but I mean, and then there were role playing games before Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, there were things that existed.
You got Bronstein, you got Chainmail.
There were things that existed, but I mean, it's a giant dinosaur that's nearing 50 some years old or whatever.
Right. 800-pound gorilla in the room.
Yeah, and it's what people know. It's what.
Well, and I think what a lot of people are missing is that consumer behavior is not that when X goes away, you go find Y. It's when X goes away, you leave.
Yeah.
Like, you stop doing that thing. Like, if I read Marvel Comics and Marvel Comics go away, I'm not just going to immediately jump ship to DC. That's not how this works, right? They aren't the same characters. I might not like them as much, right? Yeah. I might try it and bounce off or whatever.
Yeah, you're like, well, I got...
When something people have investment in is removed, they tend to exit the space rather than convert. And so you have to catch them and convert them. Which means, in a sense, and this is going to be really ugly for a bit, if this happens in the worst case scenario, there's going to be a lot of sort of grave dancing marketing. I'm serious. And that sucks. But you're gonna have companies that are like, we're still around, we're still making stuff, we've never made OGL, or we minimized it, right? We're not going anywhere, buy our games, because they're trying to capture the audience before it exits.
But companies that create stuff like Morkborg or Lamentations of the Flame Princess, or all these little, they have their passionate niche group of people. Yep. But I would hazard to say that most of those people play more D&D than they do Morkborg and things like that. I mean, unless they just have some sort of because RPG players, we consume. I mean, I'm looking at all your books. I got giant stacks of books myself. Yeah. We consume and we collect. We might not play everything that we own. But we have to have it. And the thing is that D&D is like with all its warts and the problems, it's a warm bath. It's like six stats, roll 20-sided. I mean, it's so easy.
What if you move? You can find a D&D group.
Yeah, I'm looking for a. I can't even imagine. Just any. I'm looking for a Dungeon Crawl Classics group in this town. I can't find any. Just stuff like that. Where it's.
I mean, when I moved to Fargo 2 years ago, the first thing I did was find out what game stores ran D&D events, because that's what they're gonna be playing. That's why Warhammer sticks around. If I move cross country and I want to play a mini game, well, I know I'm gonna find a Warhammer player.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Exactly. And that's another giant thing.
A similar situation in a lot of ways.
In a lot of ways. I mean, I don't know. I guess the weird thing is that I guess it's completely selfish on my part. I feel bad, for people that publish that stuff, because they have to be just sitting there like, what's going to happen? And the thing is that it's a thing. I don't know what's going to happen, but I can't do anything to stop it.
And if it does happen, I have to wait for somebody who has the resources to stop it to do it.
Yeah, and there's no way on earth.
There's no way I'm challenging Hasbro in court.
No.
Right? They bury me.
Well, and then you have all these people that you have semi-famous YouTubers saying, "Oh, you don't have to worry about the OGL. They can't enforce it anyway." And you're like, "Ooh, don't say that."
Yeah. talk to a lawyer before you make any decisions, please.
Just like, and like as you said, you said you talked to several lawyers about like what your options are and stuff like that. I'm not asking you to
no, and I won't. But
I mean,
and I don't even make that. I only have a handful of games that are OGL related. I think it's 4 that we would have to, at the worst come to worst, we'd have to delist, and they don't make more than 2 or 3% of our yearly revenue. Like, we'll survive.
No, I mean,
I'm not worried about it.
Which is good. I mean, the thing is that when I was in high school, my friends and I, and this isn't me trying to brag or anything, but I've talked about this before in other videos, is that my friends and I just didn't like the way D&D handled a lot of things. And one of the things that Gygax said, he's like, if you don't like it, don't use it. That was his whole thing, if he didn't like it. And so we made our own Dungeons and Dragons, and which has been what we've played. We would dally and we play 3.0, just test it out, and then we just rip stuff out of it and add it to ours, and Pathfinder and what have you. I mean, the only ones we didn't take anything from are 4 and 5, really. I mean, because we just don't really like them. But there's nothing stopping anybody from just, it's not. I mean, people are like, what am I going to do as a player? I don't want to support Wizards of the Coast. Well, there's a million indie publishing things, or just make your own. There's absolutely nothing that stops you from just having strength, intelligence, dexterity.
I think part of what, if I was Wizards marketing person, what I would be telling them is, how many of your consumers know what the OGL is?
None of them. Well,
for me and you, this is a lot of chatter.
They're the pages they flip by in the book that
for
have to
me
be
and you, who are in the industry, this is a lot of chatter on social media and in our emails and Discords and stuff. But the average RPG consumer,
doesn't.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I imagine they probably don't know.
Well, I mean, and the weirdest thing is, this goes right back to the very beginning of with Dungeons and Dragons, was that it was a thing where they put out the 3 books. I mean, I'm talking like advanced Dungeons and Dragons here. You put out 3 books, and then once somebody bought 3 of those books, they literally had no reason to buy any more.
Unless they wanted to.
Unless they wanted to. Like, they had everything they needed for decades of play. Because you could make your own dungeons, you could put the monsters in yourself, and so it wasn't something where they actually created the need for. It isn't like Magic the Gathering, where it's like, oh, here are the new cards, and you have to, if you want to stay competitive, and you want to, you have to keep. And so this is, in a weird way, a way for Hasbro, and this is not mind-blowing or anything, this is a weird way for Hasbro to continue making money off something that, quite literally, after you buy the starter books, you don't really need to go and buy anything anymore.
And what they're doing is they're cutting out the alternatives to provide those products, so you can only get them from them. If this is accurate, this is what they're trying to do.
So, basically, nobody's going to be able to create 5e splat books or anything anymore.
Or if you are, they're going to get a cut. Right? And that's the thing. You might say, oh, well, I have to make $750,000 to have to pay a royalty. That's true, but over $50K, you got to give them your business data, and that's valuable.
Well, I would hate to have to share my business data with just some monolith.
I won't. I mean, I can't tell anybody what to do, but I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, because because it's just a way for them, as you said, it's a way for them to oh, we really like what you did there.
It's how Facebook works, right? Nothing's free.
Yeah. What?
You're giving them data, and they're going to use that data. That's how this works.
Oh, just the other day, totally unrelated, my daughter and my wife were sitting there just talking about buying rugs for my daughter's room in the other room, and I heard them talking about it. An hour later, I'm looking at my Facebook, and they're like, Ruggable. I was like, how? What is going on?
That microphone on your phone, bud.
Yeah, I just how is this?
That's how they do it.
Yeah, it's just, oh, you want rugs? No, I don't want any rugs. I don't want any rugs at all.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a messy situation. I think what's so scary is the fact that most of us feel helpless and that we don't have full information. And the people who would both be not helpless and have full information can't help us right now.
So is the sky falling?
No, but it could. I mean, I feel like we're on a Jenga tower, right? We're one bad block pull away.
Yeah. And here's the deal, and this is kind of horrible to say, but in my opinion, it's it'll be a very bitter pill for a lot of publishers to swallow, but you just don't really have the option to not swallow it. Because what are you going to do? Not create things for over 70% of the market share? you are you would agree that you are as a one-man show.
Yeah, I'm an exception.
You are an exception. Yeah. The exception that proves the rule, which is a stupid thing. But...
My advice, and I said this on my Facebook, which is
great. If you don't follow Alan Bahr on Facebook, he had an excellent post. I read that. Yeah. This is why I'm talking to you about this right now.
When you build your creative business or any business on something you don't fully own, or you don't have like a vetted paperwork for, you are risking your creative business, right? And when you've given up your financial freedom, you've given up your creative freedom, you've given up your freedom in a sense, because you, and to paraphrase, you don't own the means of production. But it's true.
The workers control the means of production.
But you get my point. Like,
yeah.
If all I do is based on a license from somebody, and that license goes away, well, I don't have anything anymore, right? And there are a lot of reasons to use licenses, and I don't think they're bad, and I think you should use licenses. Heaven knows I've used them. I've released games to be licenses. I'm not advocating for anything against that, but I am saying make sure you know what you're getting into, and make sure you have a plan. Because, if that goes away, what's your plan?
Well, I mean, and that's just it. I don't think anybody expected this to happen.
I was shocked.
At all.
And I certainly didn't build my company like anti-OGL or away from it on purpose. Like, it just, for me, this is a lucky sort of happenstance that I am insulated from this as far as I am. Like, it was not a deliberate thought. It was not a malicious thought. I just like controlling my own destiny, and I like making rules. So I was never going to be happy only iterating on somebody else's rules.
I mean, I'm kind of looking at your books. I'm looking at that. I know that these. I've seen Kickstarter books that I know made. I mean, they're not going to be able to go after past money, are they?
No. I think for me, sort of on my reading, the worst interpretation is you just couldn't sell it going forward.
And if you do, be prepared to pay the piper.
You couldn't. It would be a violation of, because the OGL's been deauthorized. You would be selling a game under an illegal contract.
So, like, right now, it's been deauthorized?
No.
Like, for sure, but people think it's going to be.
People think it's going to be. So if that's the case, and the contract that allows you to produce this licensed material is removed, you can no longer sell licensed material. That's how licenses work.
But then you're going to have to sign the 1.1 or...
Right, and convert over, or just cease selling it, theoretically. This is, like, sort of the worst case. So you would see a mass delisting, and I can tell you what I would do if I was Wizards, and... I guess maybe I shouldn't say this, but I imagine they've already thought of this.
There's one guy, genius.
If they're watching this, hey, if you're watching this, I want to cut.
Yeah.
But I would go to like a drive-through RPG and make them enforce it because they're the platform distributing it, right? Wizards.
I didn't even think what's drive-through gonna do. Holy crud! I didn't even think about that because how much of that stuff is OGL? You're just sitting here smiling at me like
not as much as is Cthulhu, I think, but a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all the OSR stuff goes away because that's all OGL 1.0. You couldn't theoretically distribute it. Well, anything that is sort of OSR through Pathfinder through 5e stuff would theoretically, in a worst case scenario, have to be delisted and could not be distributed anymore. And then you would have to go untangle and either apply it to a new rule set.
Maybe they got enough money, drive-through, to contest it.
Yeah, but they also have an existing agreement with Wizards to do the DMs Guild.
Oh. So they may be one of the people that got, here's your contract.
And I have no insight into that.
Well, I'm not asking.
I'm saying I don't know, but
yeah.
My assumption is I know enough people at drive-through to know that if this happens, they would not be happy. Like, because they love games. They love all these games that are out there, right? I don't think anybody who likes RPGs would be sad to see.
So quick, go buy your OSR stuff now.
I guess worst come to worst. Hey, I have a couple in my web store, by the way. So let's feed the panic. Buy Alan Bahr games.
Yeah. By the way, because Tiny D6 is your big one, right?
Yeah, Tiny D6 is our big one. Gallant Night Games on drive-through or shop.gallantnightgames.com. But we also have some kind of OSR-y stuff. We have For Coin and Blood and Fallen Justice and Eora Thrill, which are all sort of in both places. You can kind of hunt those down. And we also distribute Barrel Rider games, James Spawn's imprint of OGL white box material.
Oh, very cool. So where can they what's your website? So if they want to go check out your stuff.
It's www.gallantnightgames.com.
And then I'm sure you have a Twitter that somebody can follow.
Gallant K Games.
All right, cool.
Yeah, but yeah.
All right, so sky is falling, everything's horrible. RPGs will be a desolate wasteland controlled by a monolithic corporate giant who doesn't care about any of us. That's the summation.
So same old, same old.
All right, Alan, appreciate your time, man.
My pleasure.
All right, brother.